books I did read, I'm happy I read them. Most of them, not all of them. Okay, I guess every year I'm reading less books. Hello and welcome back. This is gonna be the last video of 2023 that I will be posting. I am so glad that the year is almost over because I'm ready for a fresh start. First of all, I want to say thank you for sticking with me for another year. I just cannot wait to see what 2024 has in store for us. I hope it's all good and positive things as we are heading into the new year. This is the time for reflection and resolutions. So with reflection, I am going to be looking at all of the books that I read this year according to my Goodreads. And for resolutions, basically the only goal I have for myself is the number of books I want to read in 2024. I'm just ready to let Goodreads tell me exactly what I read in 2023.
It's gonna be a good reflection time.
I want to see books that says I've read them but not remember that I did read them. And also to see if I've met my goal. I know I didn't. I know that I set a high number for this year and did not meet them. But it's fine. These goals are just there. It's just a number. Reading is for fun, and I'm just glad that I read a good number of favorite books this year, and I'm so happy that I did get to read them. So whatever books I did read, I'm happy I read them. Most of them. Not all of them. Now let's look into what's on my Goodreads because we're gonna get this video started. The screen is recording. Okay, this is gonna be so exciting. Oh my gosh, really Goodreads, it's my reading diary, so it's gonna be really fun to see what books I did read this year. I'm ready to be shocked because I know that I don't remember half of the books I read, and I'm gonna be like, really? I read that? Okay, let's go. 2023 year in books. 92 books this year, which is a lot. I set a goal of 123 books. I am short 31 books. I have how many days? I have like a few days left of this year. It's not gonna make a difference. So in 2023, I read a total of 35,878 pages. That is a total of 92 books. Before I scroll further, I want to see my previous year. I read a total of 48,907 pages in 2022, and that is 143 books. That explains why I set such a high goal for myself in 2023. Now I'm very curious to see what's in 2021. This is supposed to be a reflection of 2023, but I'm looking at previous years to see. That's crazy. It's like I had nothing else to do. Okay, I guess with every year I'm reading less books, but it's very different because in 2021, actually let me go back to 2020 to see if the numbers are mapping. So in 2020 I read 200 books, 200 plus books as well. It's not like I had more time in those years, but 2020 was a year of quarantine, so I did have a lot more time to read, and it was also the time that I did start reading again. So I guess I was on that ride. I was like on that high. That's why the number of books that I read was crazy high. Let's go back to 2023 with my humble 92 books that I read. It seems like very little if you compare it to the previous records, but it's honestly still a lot. I'm very proud of myself for reading 92 books. Let's scroll. My shortest book that I read is That One Night Pucking Around a Why Choose Hockey Romance by Emily Raff, which has 102 pages. My longest book doesn't even tell me how many pages, but it's also the same. It's also Pucking Around. Oh, okay, so I'm assuming the shortest book, That One Night, is the prologue to Pucking Around, which is supposedly the longest book that I read. Let's click on this. I didn't even give a rating. Let me see what my review says. This reverse harem was too much for me. It started off good, but halfway through I was over it, and because I am dropping it and I don't have strong opinions on this book, I am not going to rate it. I do want to put out there that I believe this didn't need to be a reverse harem. The prequel to this book with only one of the guys, Jake, would have been enough. If I remember correctly, in That One Night only one of the guys, Jake, was introduced, and we got this very good chemistry going on between these two characters that when I read Pucking Around and more guys were introduced, I did not feel that it needed to be a reverse harem. I don't know exactly how many pages this book has, but I'm assuming it's a very long book, which could also explain why I dropped it, because I didn't want to read it anymore. Now I will never know what is actually the longest book that I read in 2023. Moving on, my average book length in 2023 is 387 pages. I think I read a lot of 400-page books this year, and I really do like reading books that are between 300 and 400 pages, but with the occasional few books that have 500 pages. I still remember 2 years ago, you know, the years that I read 200 books, my average book length was probably around 200 to 300, because a lot of the books that I read were 200 pages, 220 pages long. So I guess with every year, I am reading longer books. Let's go. My most shelved is Reminders of Him by Colleen Hoover. Really? And my least shelved is Baby for the Hockey Star by Emery Kate. You're kidding. I'm actually kind of surprised that the most shelved is Reminders of Him. Low-key, I really thought it would have been Fourth Wing. With these two books, I only remember Reminders of Him. I don't remember what Baby for the Hockey Star is about, so we're gonna click on this. I rated this one 4 stars. I don't remember what this book is about. Even the synopsis is bringing nothing back for me.
11 minutes later.
It's coming back to me in little bits and pieces. This is a second chance romance. If I remember correctly, she left him to go study abroad somewhere. So they broke up. She comes back and they meet again in their hometown, where they happen to be neighbors. If I remember correctly, that is what this book is about. Don't quote me on it, but I think that's what this one is, and I rated this one 4 stars. I can't tell you if I still think this book is 4 stars, because I rate books based on how I feel in the moment. It might or might not be 4 stars for me anymore, but it was at the moment, so I'm going to leave it at that. Now, my average rating for 2023 is 4.1. It makes sense. Yeah. I'm very tempted to look back at my previous years to see what my average ratings were. Should we? Let's go and look. My previous year in 2022, my average rating was 4.4. Okay. Now in 2021, my average rating 4.4. Girl, I need some difference. What is in my 2022? My 2020 average rating was 4.8. Girl was generous. But yeah, I rated a lot of books 5 stars in 2020. I remember this. I remember thinking how I keep rating books 5 stars. Honestly, any book that I read in 2020 that I was able to finish, that was able to give me a few minutes of fun and kept me hooked for a while, I would give it 5 stars. I was very lenient. Now in 2023, my rating has lowered a little bit, but it's still within the 4-star range. I do rate a lot of books 4 stars, and with the occasional 5 stars and the rare occurrence of 2 or 3 stars. The highest rated on Goodreads of the books that I've read this year, Fourth Wing, with a 4.6 average. Deserved, because I rated this book 5 stars, and I know a lot of people love this one. I mean, it is because of them that I wanted to give this book a shot myself, and I fell absolutely in love with it. Now, what is my first review of the year? It's Havoc. I rated this one 3 stars, but according to my review, it is 3.6 stars. I only read 2 books of the series, and there are 3 more left. There's a reason. I started this book when I was in a mood to read reverse harems, and there are a few authors that I typically go to when I want to read reverse harems. C.M. Stunick is one of them. I wanted to read this book a while back when I found out that this was going to be a new series that she was working on. I told myself that I was going to start this series when all the books were released. I finally got to it this year, and I was in that mood, but the moment that I read the first one, I wasn't as into it as I hoped. Girl, I was in a reverse harem mood at the beginning of this year. So yeah, I read this one in the beginning of the year. Now I want to see when I read the second book, just to see if I like continue this one right after. Oh, I did. Once I read the second book of the series, which is Chaos at Prescott High, I decided to put a pause. I don't think I can handle following through with 3 more books right now. I started the series in the mood to read this trope, but I'm no longer in it. Someday in the future, I'll revisit the Havoc Boys. That is not now, because I'm still not back in this mood, and even if I go back to Reverse Harems, I don't think I would continue and pick off with this series. I don't remember what it was about this series that I just could not stay focused in, which is why I'm kind of disappointed, because the other Reverse Harem books that Sam Sunic has written, I devoured the entire series. I think I read 3 other series from her that are Reverse Harem, and you know, I can still kind of remember it, but for this one I just could not bring myself to continue. That is unfortunate, but maybe one day. Wait, that's it? And then I'm gonna look at all the books that I read in 2023. What? I can't believe this. Why do I feel like I read Fable and Namesake a long time ago? It was only this year. The Cheat Sheet by Sarah Adams is 5 stars for me. I absolutely love this one. It's also because I love this one that I decided to get 2 other books from Sarah Adams. I see a book here that is called Girl Left Behind by C.J. Cross. This is the first book of the Dana Gray mystery. Girl Left Behind was very similar to Bones, the TV show. As much as I love watching Bones, reading this very similar book did not do any justice. This book was very fast-paced, that I felt the book did not give any thriller or suspense feeling at all. Let's see. I also read This Time Next Year by Sophie Cousins, Offside by Avery Keelan. Oh my gosh, look at this. 3 Swedish Mountain Men, Triple Duty Bodyguard, Nanny for the Neighbors, Baking with Benefits, all by Lily Gold, and also all Reverse Harems. So I guess I went back into the mood, but this one is a rom-com. Wow, I read these in January. I'm looking at the dates right now. Did I actually read all of Lily Gold's books back to back? Because that is impressive. I read her books in January and February. This is a record. These standalones were very easy to read, and I think I read all of her books. Read. There's one more, Not Your Baby, but this has not been released yet, so I guess you can say I technically read all of Lily Gold's books that she has released. Her Reverse Harem books are very fun and very easy to read. If I have to say something, is that the personalities of all of her characters are pretty much the same. It's like reading 4 books of the same characters, but I still very much enjoyed it. There are some little differences with the plot. Right next to Nanny for the Neighbors is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I rated that one 4 stars if I remember correctly. Right next to that is The No-Show by Bethel Larry. I have that as 5 stars. If you ask me as of today, is it still 5 stars? I don't think it is, but I'm not gonna go back and change it. The Right Move, The Baller. I don't remember what The Baller is about by V. Keelan. I think Falling for Temptation by MJ Hendricks, that might be a good boy, bad girl trope. What else is there? Black Ties and White Lies by Kat Singleton. I don't remember this one. I rated this one as 4.4 stars. I wrote that this was an ex-boyfriend's older brother book. If that's what you're interested in, go check it out. If this is in order, then I read the Dark Verse series right after by Runix. Let's go into this. So the first one is The Predator. I have this one as 4 stars. My only wish is that the sequel can be rounded to 5 stars. Did it? The Reaper. Yes, I did. Oh, and I wrote, wow, my wish came true. And yeah, because Tristan and Marana, they are my favorite couple in the Darkverse series. Let's see number 3, The Emperor. What did I rate this one as? 5 stars. Wow. This series only gets better. Very true. The Finisher, which follows Alpha and Zephyr. Also 5 stars. I'm just reading my review. Most of the time, my favorite couples in a series is the couple that I read first. In this case, it is Tristan and Marana. But Alpha and Zephyr, if I read this book first, they would have been my favorite couple because I absolutely loved and adored these two. And I feel like their book, The Finisher, is very underrated. For The Annihilator, I have this as 4 stars. This was not my favorite book in the series. This one also felt like the darkest book in the series. So that's 5 out of 5, and I'm waiting for book 6 to come out, which is called The Syndicator, with all of the couples together, and I'm waiting patiently for it. Things to look forward to in 2024. The Syndicator by Brunix. Back to all the books. What Was Meant to Be by QB Tyler. I need to read at least one of this author's books every year because sometimes I just need to read dirty smut. I can rely on QB Tyler to get that. However, I will put it out there that her books are her books are taboo-ish. Like, there is some sort of element in her books that I'm sure some people will find very uncomfortable. That is something that you might want to look into before you pick up one of her books. Only When It's Us by Chloe Leith. When I was putting books onto my book cart, there was a book called Better Hate Than Never that was by Chloe Leith, and I realized I did read one of her books before, and it was this one, Only When It's Us. I have this one as 5 stars. I discovered this book on TikTok, and I'm so glad that I did because I really love this one. One of the most memorable parts of this book is their first interaction. They sit next to each other in class. The female lead turns to the male lead and asks him a question, but he ignores her. So she thought that he was very mean and grumpy and rude. Little did she know that he was actually deaf, so he wasn't able to hear her. Their friendship developed from there. Friends just becomes lovers. It was very, very cute. Then I read Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. This one has 5 stars. This one follows Iris and Declan. I have one more book left of this series, which is Final Offer. I plan to read that in 2024, so look forward to that. I want to check when I read the fine print. You're telling me I read the fine print in 2021 and I decided to pick up Terms and Conditions in 2023? I had a wait time of 2 years. I am not doing that for Final Offer. Don't worry, I am not gonna wait until 2025 to read Final Offer. Sinners Condemned, Sinners Consumed. I don't really remember what this one is about, except I know that it's something about mafia and there's gambling and pickpocketing, I think. I have Consider Me by Becca Mack, smack in my face with my 5-star rating. This is a reread because I wanted to prepare myself for Play With Me by Becca Mack. And this one follows Garrett and Jenny, while Consider Me follows Carter and Olivia. And Carter and Olivia will always be one of my favorite couples of all time. I do have a top 10 or top 5 of favorite couples, and Carter and Olivia is up there. Let's see what else is there. What is this one? I don't remember this. When Heroes Fall. I have this as 5 stars. Oh wait, I think this is one of the books where I was genuinely surprised with how the female lead turned out to be. The faith Elena and Dante had in each other was unwavering. I love stable couples. Yes, we do. So moving on to this other series that I'm looking at right now that I've talked about plenty on this channel. It is the UFJ series by Alice's. I'm not gonna continue to talk about this because I'm pretty sure you're sick of me talking about this one. But just so you know, this is a reread so that I could read the Royalty Cruise duet. But I do want to see how many times I've read this one already. This year was my 4th time reading this series. Like, I will never get bored reading this series. So yeah, I read the UFJ series to prepare for this one. You don't really need to do that. I just wanted to do it. And this one is about Savvy and Jasper. We have met Savvy in the UFJ series, and now she got her own 2 books. Oh, I didn't know you could do that. Oh, now I know. I thought it was forever ago that I started the Shatter Me series, but it was this year. It was in June that I started my journey of reading Shatter Me series. It took me 6 months, but we got there. I read Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter. I rated this one as 4 stars, but it's also one of those books where it could have been a 5 stars, but I don't know why I did not put it as 5 stars. It's a very memorable book. It says they're Psycho Shifters. This is a fantasy shifter romance, and it's also reverse harem, but this one is a fantasy reverse harem that I don't know if I've ever read before, but I remember the scenes in this series being kind of gruesome. A lot of blood was shed. Unravel Me by Becca Mack. Adam is yummy. I'm sorry I said that, but Adam is yummy. He's yummy, but he's also so lovable. And so there's Carter and Olivia, and then there's Adam and Rosie. Like, it's a 5 stars book. I see Chasing Red and Always Red by Isabel Ronan. I picked this one up because I saw there was a webtoon based on this book, and I wanted to read the actual books and see if the webtoon would follow it. I'm not up to date with the webtoon. I'm going to go back to it when I have more chapters to read, but for now I would say it kind of is. Yeah, I have this one as 4 stars. 4 stars as well. Even though I feel like I read a lot of romance, not every book gives cliche in the whole obvious way. This one really did, but I still wanted to read it because it was pretty fun, and sometimes you just need a little drama in your life. The moment I knew that there was going to be a second girl involved and how the girl has a past with the main guy, I just knew exactly what was going to happen. But still, I read it to have fun, and I did. What else is there? Looking at my screen right now, I did read a lot of physical copy books this year, and I'm really proud of myself for that. I see Set on You, Unravel Me, Dance of Thieves, The X Talk, Good Girl, Bad Blood, Reminders of Him, Mr. Wrong Number, Things We Never Got Over, Electric Idol, and so forth. Ignite Me. I did read a lot of physical copy books this year, and I'm really proud of myself for that. The big book on my screen, How to Honeymoon Alone by Olivia Haley. I have this as 5 stars, and I just love this one. This is a summer book, but I did not read this in the summer. I actually read this in September. I just wanted to read it because the cover, I just love the cover. If you do not already know, I love covers with the cartoon drawings. So this book follows 2 characters who basically meet while they are on their honeymoons alone. I don't even know how to describe what I was feeling when I was reading this book. I just remember thinking to myself how good this book was. That was so close to wanting to buy the physical book, and I might. I know I like a book when I want to consider buying the physical book if I've already read the Kindle. I am surprised that they don't tell you what your lowest rated book is of the year. It really might have been Electric Idol for me, and I'm not counting the books that I DNF. Anyway, I see Collide, which is a hockey romance by Ball Cabra. Really like this one. I rated that one 4 stars. I see fantasy books, Once Upon a Broken Heart, Kingdom of the Wicked, Fourth Wing, Iron Flame. Good books there. Elle Kennedy, The Graham Effect, 5 stars. I have a bias towards this book because there's Garrett and Hannah, and they are also one of my favorite couples of all time. Anything that has to do with them, I tend to rate higher on the scale. It doesn't matter if the book is good or not. This book is good. I'm just saying I didn't rate this one 5 stars because of Garrett and Hannah, but I'm just saying I do have a bias for these characters. There's this one. I did not rate this one because I DNF'd it. I read a couple of chapters in and I just could not get through with it. I put this one in my shelf for on hold for now. I might just change this one to DNF for realsies and not continue with it anymore. It's due to the cover that I picked this book up. When I actually started to read it, it felt very juvenile. It's just not the type of book that I would read now. I might have read this like a few years ago, but it's just not something I would read now. It's the writing. It was very cringy at some points. I can deal with cringe. I have read cringy books, but for some reason I just could not bring myself to continue reading this one. Things that happen in this one, not only are they cringy, but it's so to the point where it's unrealistically cringy. I don't know how to describe it, because if this happened in another book with characters I liked, I would put up with it, but I couldn't get through with this one, so I had to DNF it. And I just did not want to put myself to continue a book that I have no interest in, and that's something I want to do more in the new year, is to stop forcing myself to continue reading books that I don't like. And I have a hard time DNFing books. I am a type of person who likes to know how certain things end, regardless if I like a book or not. I do skip to the ending just to read it to see what happens, because I need to know the ending of everything. I don't know what it fulfills, but it does something for me. I force myself to finish books even though I don't have an interest in it, especially if I've already started it and I'm more than a couple chapters in. I tend to read on. A lot of times though, the more I read on, the more I don't regret not dropping it, because it does get interesting. It just takes a long time for it to get interesting. That is why sometimes I am afraid to DNF a book, because what if I drop something that I might eventually like? Something that I want to be able to do in the new year is DNF a book and not force myself to commit to a book if I don't see myself wanting to read it. There are a lot of good books out there, and here I am forcing myself to read a book that I have no interest in. All this time that I spend reading this one book, I could have read some other book that I could have enjoyed. That is not to say that every book that I spend a long time on is a bad book. Sometimes I purposely do it, but there are books that I do spend way too much on that I don't have interest for. I hope to change that in the new year and to drop it, and don't feel guilty about dropping a book. And I guess I started early this year with this one. We have the rest of the Shadow Me series. There are 2 books here, Still Beating by Jennifer Hartman. This one I have as 3 stars. This is a pretty dark book in the sense that our main characters were kidnapped in the beginning and they were forced to do things. So this one has trigger warnings. Make sure you check it before you decide to read this one. Now, there's Unsteady by Peyton Corin. This one is between a hockey player and a figure skater. This is a college sports romance. For the longest time when I was reading this one, I was very convinced that this was going to be a 4 stars read. Then I got to 60%. The second half won me over. Mainly, it was the male lead. I swear to God, Reese, what he made me feel while reading this book. There were a couple scenes here, like the story itself, there were a couple scenes that had me teary-eyed and I was feeling really emotional in because of what the female lead is going through. But then, nothing compared to reading that one specific scene with Reese. My heart was breaking for that man. It's not a tragic scene. No one dies. It's just that one scene that I can picture in my mind very clearly exactly how the events took place. What he did in that one scene, it got me feeling so much empathy, but also it got me pitying him. It sounds very bad when I say that, but it really did get me pitying this man, and I was like, girl, if you make him cry, I will seriously come into this book and talk some sense into you. It got me feeling very protective of this man, and he truly did become one of my favorite male leads of all time as well. How many times am I gonna say of all time in this video? But that's what these books are making me feel. In all the books I read, he's definitely in top 10. I am like not surprised that if I have to list a few names right now, most of them are hockey romance book boyfriends. There's Garrett, there's Carter, there's Adam, there's Reese. There's already 4 in this list. What can I say? It's just these authors know how to write these men. So yeah, read this book. My last review of the year is for Imagine Me. I have this as 3.4. I read 75% of my reading goal. 2 days left, but we already know I'm not gonna read 31 books in 2 days. Not with this record. And that is it for my 2023 year of books. Before I end the video, I want to talk about some of my current reads, which is Tessa Bailey's Wreck the Halls. I'm sorry for being such a disappointment, but I'm only on page 40. I really tried to get into this one and it's very slow for me. I had no idea that this one was a third-person POV. That threw me off, and I know I can read third-person POV, but sometimes I'm just not in the mood for that. Even though it wasn't first person, I still wanted to read this one because it is on my December TBR, but I am reading this at a slow pace. It's not like the story is slow, I'm just reading it very slow. and I don't think I'm gonna be able to finish this one this year, and I'm so close to just dropping this one and to save it for next Christmas. I said no, I'm gonna read this in intervals. But if I do end up dropping this one, I was going to read this one because I really want to read Managed by Kristen Callahan, and I might just read these two at the same time. I'm starting multiple books at one time. I'm reading on Kindle Unlimited this book called Heist. I'm gonna have the picture right here. This is the Kindle book that I'm reading. However, for some reason, it's also not getting my attention. I don't know what is happening. The feeling that I got reading this book reminds me of reading the Havoc series, which I mentioned. It's the series that I read only 2 books of, and it's a reverse harem. It's the same feeling. Like, I've read multiple books from this author as well, and I really liked her reverse harems, but for some reason I don't know what is going on with me. I don't know if I want to read dark books or if I want to read light books, but I do know I want to read Managed. If I do drop this book, I want to be able to have a backup, and I don't have that yet, so I'm reading this one. Basically, I might just end the year having 3 books open: Heist, Wreck the Halls, and Managed, and hopefully one of these will just bring me back into that mood that I can read whatever book it is that is thrown my way. I don't see an option for me to set a reading goal right now on Goodreads, so I'm just going to say it here. I set this year as 123 for the year 2023. I want to say I want to read 100 books in 2024. You know what? No, we're gonna aim for 94 books in 2024. I think we can do that, right? I think I can do that. 94 books. If I don't spend as much time forcing myself to finish certain books, I might have been able to get more books done. So yeah, see enough books that I'm not feeling interested in, so I can move on to really good books and be able to read more good books in 2024. And that is my goal, reading 94 books in the new year. Let me know what your goals are for 2024, how many books you plan on reading, if you are looking forward to any books that are coming out. There are a few books that I am looking forward to. It's also books from authors that I've never read before, but I do look forward to it for some reason. And that's it. Hope you enjoyed my 2023 year-end books based on my Goodreads. And once again, I want to thank all of you for spending another year with me, putting up with me, being patient with me. I'm super grateful for all of you. I wish you all a fantastic new year, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.